I never thought I'd have to utter the words, "My mother is refusing to take my dying son to the hospital," to a 911 dispatcher. It's the kind of sentence that doesn't even feel real. Yet, there I was, standing on her perfectly manicured lawn, my 4-year-old son wheezing in my arms, his face swelling to an unrecognizable shape. And there she was, my mother, standing in her doorway, purse on her shoulder, jingling her car keys. "I am going to be late for my book club," she said, not with malice, but with the kind of annoyed impatience you'd use if you were stuck behind someone counting out pennies at the grocery store. Let me tell you, this was the moment the world shattered. But to understand how we got here, how a grandmother could weigh her child's life against a Chardonnay-fueled chat about the latest bestseller, you have to understand that this wasn't a sudden storm. This was a hurricane that had been building for years. It all started, as these things often do, with something that seemed small, almost forgivable. My son, Liam, was my whole world. I was a single mom, and his dad was more of a suggestion than a presence, which meant my support system was, basically, my mom. And for a while, she played the part, at least on social media. My Facebook feed was a curated gallery of Grandma's Best Boy, featuring photos of her and Liam, always perfectly lit, always with a caption about how blessed she was. In reality, being a grandmother was a role she put on like a string of pearls, looked good, but was easily removed when it became inconvenient. The first crack appeared around Liam's first birthday. I was exhausted, broke, and running on fumes, but I was determined to give him a special day. I'd spent weeks planning a small party at my tiny apartment. My mom had promised, pinky swore, to come an hour early to help me set up. An hour before the party, my apartment was a chaotic mess of half-inflated balloons, a collapsed playpen, and a baby who seemed to sense my rising panic. My mom was nowhere to be seen. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Guests arrived. We ate cake. Liam, blissfully unaware, smashed his tiny hands into the frosting. It was fine. But a part of me, the part that had really needed her, felt a sharp, stinging disappointment. 3 hours after the party had ended, my phone finally rang. It was Mom, her voice giddy and slightly slurred. "Hi, honey," she chirped. "How was the party?" I could hear the clinking of glasses and laughter in the background. "Where are you, Mom?" I asked, my voice flat. "Oh, we're at that new winery. Brenda's cousin is in town and we just had to take her. We completely lost track of time. You know how it is." I didn't. I really didn't know how it was to forget your own grandson's first birthday party. But I swallowed it. I made excuses for her. She has a very active social life, I told myself. It's good that she's happy. I chose to believe it was a one-time thing. I was wrong. The incidents started to pile up, each one a little more unbelievable than the last. They became a pattern of choosing her friends, her social calendar, her perfectly constructed life, over the messy reality of my own. About a year later, I got a call for a dream job interview. It was a huge step up, a chance to finally get some financial breathing room. The catch? The interview was the next day, the only slot they had. I had no one to watch Liam. I called my mom, practically begging. "Of course, honey, of course. You can count on me," she'd said, her voice dripping with supportive mother sincerity. I spent the whole night preparing, researching the company, practicing my answers. I laid out my best suit. This was my shot. An hour before I was supposed to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "So sorry, sweetie, can't make it. Brenda's Shih Tzu is having a nervous breakdown and she's a wreck. I have to go be with her. Rain check on the babysitting. Hugs and kisses." I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over. A dog's nervous breakdown. She was canceling on my one shot at a life-changing job for a dog's anxiety attack. I called her, my voice shaking with a rage I didn't know I had. "Are you serious?" I yelled. "A dog? This is my future, Mom." "Now, don't be dramatic," she said, her voice turning cold. "Friends support each other in a crisis. You're being very selfish. Besides, you can always get another interview. Brenda only has one Pookie Bear." I didn't get another interview. And when I tried to explain how much that had hurt, she told me I was ungrateful for all the times she had helped. She was an expert at twisting the knife and then blaming you for bleeding on her carpet. The breaking point, the moment that should have been the final straw, happened on a cold Tuesday in November. I was driving home with Liam in his car seat when a guy ran a red light and T-boned my car. We were lucky. We were shaken and bruised, but alive. The car, however, was totaled. I stood on the side of the road, holding a crying toddler, smoke pouring from my crumpled hood. My husband, a long-haul trucker, was 1,000 miles away in Texas. After calling the police, I called my mom. She lived 10 minutes away. "Oh my God, that's horrible," she gasped when I told her what happened. "Is my grandbaby okay?" "He's fine, just scared." "We're so cold, Mom. Can you please come get us?" There was a pause. "Well, honey, this is just terrible timing. I'm in the middle of hosting my annual fondue party. All my friends are here. I mean, the cheese is literally bubbling." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Fondue? Mom, I was just in a car wreck. I'm standing on the side of a busy road with your grandson. I need you." "You're putting me in a terrible position in front of my guests," she whispered, as if I were the one embarrassing her. "Can you just call an Uber? I'll Venmo you." Then she hung up. An Uber. With a 4-year-old, a bulky car seat I'd have to somehow install in a stranger's car while shaking from an accident. It was a stranger, a woman who saw me struggling, who pulled over and drove me and Liam home. A total stranger showed me more compassion than my own mother. That night, something inside me hardened. The part that made excuses for her, that held out hope, it just died. Which brings us to that Saturday. The day of the bee sting. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon. We were in my tiny backyard, Liam chasing butterflies and me trying to pretend that the gaping wound in my heart wasn't there. My car was still in the shop from the accident, a constant reminder of her fondue party. Liam let out a sudden, sharp cry. He came running to me, holding his little hand. A bee sting. I wasn't too worried at first. I pulled out the stinger, got him an ice pack. Standard procedure. But then his breathing started to sound funny. A tight, wheezing sound. I looked at his face and a cold dread washed over me. His lips were puffing up. His eyes were starting to swell shut. Anaphylactic shock. My mind went into overdrive. I snatched my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher was calm, but her words were terrifying. "Ma'am, we have a 5-alarm fire on the other side of town. Every available unit is there. The ETA for an ambulance to your location is 20, maybe 25 minutes. 25 minutes. Looking at my son, I knew we didn't have 25 minutes. The hospital was a 7-minute drive away. 7 minutes. My car was in the shop. I had one option. 2 blocks away. My mom. My hands were trembling as I dialed her number. I explained the situation in short, sharp bursts. "Liam. Bee sting. Can't breathe. Anaphylaxis. Ambulance is delayed. I need you to drive us. Now." "Oh, sweetie, my God. Is he okay?" she asked, a manufactured tone of concern in her voice. "Listen, I'm literally walking out the door this second. Brenda and Susan are picking me up to go to that new exhibit at the art gallery. The tickets were non-refundable, you know." The words hit me like a physical blow. Non-refundable tickets. MOM. I screamed into the phone, a sound of pure panic. "Are you listening to me? He cannot breathe. Forget the tickets." "Well, you've already called the ambulance, haven't you?" she said, her voice defensive. "They'll be there eventually. I can't just stand up my friends. They've been looking forward to this for weeks. It wouldn't be fair to them." I didn't even say goodbye. I hung up, scooped up my gasping child, and ran. I ran out my back gate and down the street, Liam's wheezing breaths horrifically loud in the quiet afternoon. I ran the 2 blocks to her house, my lungs burning, my legs screaming. As I rounded the corner onto her street, I saw it. A pristine white Lexus was idling in her driveway. Her friends. And there was my mom, stepping out of her front door, looking chic in a silk blouse, ready for her afternoon of culture. She saw me, and her face tightened with annoyance, not concern. She was embarrassed. "What are you doing?" she hissed as I stumbled onto her lawn. "You're making a scene." "Get in the car, Mom," I panted, holding Liam out. His face was so swollen he was almost unrecognizable. "We have to go. Now." Her friends, Brenda and Susan, stared from the car, their perfectly made-up faces a mixture of confusion and pity. "The ambulance is on its way to your house. You should go back and wait for them, my mother said, her voice low and firm. She was trying to save face, to pretend this was just a bit of silly drama. It's just a little bee sting. He'll be fine. That's when I snapped. Seeing my child fighting for every breath while she worried about her social standing, it broke something in me for good. I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling, and dialed 911 again. Hi, I said, my voice eerily calm. I called a few minutes ago. My son, Liam. Anaphylactic shock. I looked my mother dead in the eye. Yes, the ambulance is delayed. I'm at my mother's house now. She's 2 blocks from me, but she is refusing to drive us to the hospital. The dispatcher was silent for a second. I'm sorry, ma'am. Can you repeat that? She's refusing. Yes, I said, my voice like ice. My mother's face was turning from annoyed to pale. She has plans with her friends. Non-refundable tickets. Brenda and Susan's jaws were on the floor of the Lexus. Then the dispatcher asked the question that would echo in my mind forever. Ma'am, is your mother actively preventing you from getting medical care for your child? I held my mother's gaze. I saw her realize what was happening. I saw the panic in her eyes as her perfect world began to crumble in front of her friends. Yes, I said, the word tasting like freedom and poison. Yes, she is. The dispatcher's voice became firm. Okay, ma'am. I've dispatched police to your location for a wellness check and custodial interference. Paramedics have been rerouted and are on their way to you now. The moment I said police, my mother's friends looked at each other, and without a word, the Lexus screeched in reverse out of the driveway and sped down the street, leaving my mother standing alone on her porch. Her perfect afternoon was over. The paramedics were there in 4 minutes. They were incredible, working on Liam on my mom's pristine lawn, giving him an EpiPen and oxygen. As they loaded him into the ambulance, 2 police officers arrived. My mom tried to play the victim. My daughter is hysterical, she cried, tears streaming down her face. She overreacts to everything. But the officer just looked from her designer outfit to the terrified child in the ambulance and then back to her. He took my statement, then gave her a stern warning about parental abduction and custodial interference that made the color drain from her face. Liam was okay. They kept him at the hospital for observation, but he was going to be fine. I, on the other hand, was not fine. I was a new person, forged in the fire of betrayal. The next weekend was my mom's big annual family barbecue. She called me 3 times, leaving voicemails about how we needed to clear the air and move past this misunderstanding. She wanted me to apologize for embarrassing her. I told her I'd be there. I walked into her backyard, and it was like a scene from a movie. The whole family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins. A handful of her other friends, the ones who hadn't witnessed the 911 call, were laughing around the patio table. She saw me and her face lit up with a triumphant, relieved smile. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd come to crawl back. I let her think it. I waited. I waited for that moment when she was holding court, telling a story, a glass of wine in her hand, the center of her universe. Then I cleared my throat. Excuse me, I said, my voice cutting through the chatter. I'd just like to say something. The yard went quiet. Everyone turned to look at me. I'd like to publicly thank my mother, I began, my voice steady and clear. Thanks to her, I learned a very valuable lesson last week. I learned that non-refundable $50 tickets to an art gallery are more important than her grandson's life. I learned that when my son was turning blue, his throat closing up, her biggest concern was not inconveniencing her friends, Brenda and Susan. Her smile was gone. Her face was a mask of horror. My aunt started to say my name, a warning in her voice, but I wasn't stopping. I also learned what it sounds like when a 911 dispatcher has to send the police to your own mother's house because she is physically preventing you from taking a child to the emergency room. And I learned what my son's life is worth to her. So thank you, Mom. You've shown me exactly what kind of grandmother you are, and more importantly, you've shown me what kind of person I never want to be. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment. Her friends were staring at her, their mouths open. The family looked like they'd been turned to stone. We're done, I said, looking right at her. Have a good life. And I turned around, walked out of the yard, got in my newly repaired car, and drove away. I didn't look back. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. A nuclear explosion in my family. My phone was bombarded with calls and texts. Some called me cruel and unforgivable for humiliating her. I blocked them. But something else happened, too. My uncle called to say he was proud of me. A few cousins reached out in support. And incredibly, Brenda and Susan both contacted me separately. They apologized profusely, swearing they had no idea how serious it was and that they had since ended their decades-long friendship with my mother. It turns out, even her shallow friends had more of a soul than she did. I went no contact. I sent her one last thing, a copy of Liam's hospital bill with a note that said, "This is what your art gallery tickets really cost." It's been 6 months now. Liam is happy and thriving. I've built a new support system, a chosen family of friends who would walk through fire for me and my son. I hear through the grapevine that my mother is a ghost in her own social circle. The story spread. She's alone, miserable, and still telling anyone who will listen how her cruel daughter blew a simple bee sting out of proportion. Let her. She can have her stories. I have my son. And I have my peace. I'd make the same choice 1,000 times.